If you had the power to destroy everyone who wronged you, would you hesitate? Edmond Dantès does not. Wrongly imprisoned for 14 years, betrayed by men he trusted, and erased from the world without trial, he emerges from a dungeon not as a broken man, but as something far more dangerous. He becomes a strategist with limitless wealth, limitless patience, and nothing left to lose. Under the name the Count of Monte Cristo, he will construct one of the most meticulous revenge plots ever written. But as his enemies fall, a deeper question begins to rise. When does justice become cruelty? And when does revenge transform the victim into the villain? This is the story of innocence betrayed, power reclaimed, and vengeance tested against mercy. In 1815, Edmond Dantès is a 19-year-old sailor returning to Marseille after a successful voyage. His captain has died during the journey, and Edmond has temporarily taken command of the ship. The owner, Monsieur Morel, is so impressed that he intends to promote him to captain permanently. Edmond is also engaged to Mercedes, a woman he loves deeply and plans to marry within days. His life stands on the edge of happiness and success. But 3 men resent him. Danglars envies his rapid promotion. Fernand Mondego desires Mercedes for himself. Gérard de Villefort, an ambitious prosecutor, fears that Edmond carries a political letter that could damage his career. Together they create an anonymous accusation claiming that Edmond is a secret supporter of Napoleon. On the day of his engagement celebration, Edmond is arrested. He believes his innocence will protect him. He is wrong. Villefort quickly realizes that Edmond is innocent. However, he discovers that the letter in Edmond's possession is addressed to Villefort's own father, a known Bonapartist. If this truth becomes public, Villefort's political ambitions will collapse. To protect himself, he burns the letter and sends Edmond to the Château d'If, an island prison where prisoners are meant to disappear. Edmond waits for justice. Days become months. Months become years. Hope slowly dissolves into despair. After several years in isolation, Edmond encounters Abbé Faria, an elderly scholar who has been secretly digging a tunnel. Faria becomes his teacher and mentor, educating him in languages, science, history, economics, and strategy. He transforms Edmond from an impulsive young sailor into a disciplined and calculating thinker. Faria also reveals the existence of an immense hidden treasure buried on the island of Monte Cristo. When Faria dies from illness, Edmond takes his place in the burial sack and allows himself to be thrown into the sea. He escapes underwater and swims to freedom. After 14 years of imprisonment, Edmond Dantès is reborn. Edmond locates the treasure on Monte Cristo and discovers wealth beyond imagination. With this fortune, he reinvents himself. Edmond Dantès disappears, and in his place emerges the Count of Monte Cristo, a mysterious nobleman of immense resources and unknown origins. The Count is calm, elegant, and deliberate. He moves through European society with effortless authority. He secretly rewards those who once treated him kindly, including Monsieur Morel, whose failing business he rescues from ruin. But his central purpose remains clear. He intends to dismantle the men who destroyed him. Not with rage, with precision. Years later, the Count arrives in Paris, where his former enemies now enjoy power and respect. Danglars has become a wealthy banker. Fernand has become a decorated general and has married Mercedes. Villefort has risen high within the judicial system. Each man believes his past crimes are safely buried. The Count inserts himself into their world with patience and calculation. He studies their weaknesses and manipulates circumstances so that their own greed, ambition, and hidden sins become the instruments of their destruction. Danglars is financially ruined through carefully orchestrated market manipulation and public humiliation. Fernand's military reputation collapses when the Count exposes his betrayal of an ally in Greece. Villefort's household implodes as long-buried crimes surface and personal scandals spiral beyond control. The Count does not attack blindly. He engineers consequences. Yet, as his plans unfold, the Count begins to witness the unintended cost of his vengeance. In pursuing Villefort, innocent members of the family suffer. In humiliating Danglars, his daughter bears the consequences. Mercédès, who genuinely loved Edmond, must endure the collapse of her husband's reputation and her son's future. The Count once believed himself to be an agent of divine justice. Now doubt begins to grow. When one of his schemes nearly results in the death of a child, he confronts a painful truth. His revenge does not simply punish the guilty. It spreads suffering outward. The man who once demanded justice now risks becoming unjust himself. As his enemies fall one by one, the Count faces a final decision. Danglars is captured and left helpless. The Count could destroy him completely, but instead he chooses to spare his life after ensuring that Danglars has experienced humiliation and loss. When Mercédès confronts him and recognizes him as Edmond Dantès, their meeting is filled not with rage, but with sorrow. She reminds him of who he once was, and he sees clearly the distance between his former innocence and his present power. For the first time since escaping prison, Edmond allows mercy to guide his actions. He realizes that revenge cannot restore his lost youth or undo the years stolen from him. He can destroy his enemies. He cannot resurrect the past. In the end, the Count of Monte Cristo withdraws from Paris, leaving behind the ruins of his enemies' ambitions. He entrusts his remaining wealth and hope to two young lovers, Maximilien Morel and Valentine Villefort, whose future represents renewal rather than destruction. Edmond Dantès began as a hopeful young sailor who believed in fairness and love. He transformed into a master strategist who believed himself to be the hand of fate. Ultimately, he learns that power without compassion becomes cruelty. The novel closes not with triumph, but with reflection. Human beings are not gods. Justice pursued without mercy becomes vengeance. Vengeance pursued without limit becomes corruption. The final message is simple and profound. Wait and hope. On its surface, The Count of Monte Cristo is a story about revenge. Beneath its dramatic plot lies a deeper exploration of power, identity, and moral restraint. If someone stole 14 years of your life, what would you become in response? Would you seek balance, or would you seek domination? Edmond Dantès gains wealth, intelligence, and influence beyond measure. Yet his greatest transformation is not from prisoner to nobleman. It is from vengeance to mercy. And in that final choice, he discovers something greater than revenge. He discovers restraint.